This is going to be a long and interesting story. I recommend you to subscribe to the channel to keep up with updates and not miss a single one of them. I will make comments on each part of the story without knowing what will happen in the next update to keep interest in it. I hope you will be with me and up until the end. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and now we are going to the story.
There isn't a soul in the world I can talk about this with. I don't know if I need advice, a pep talk, or what. I use my main account for memes and other BS. But I made this throwaway because I'm going mad trying to cope. Life has pushed me to the edge and I'm struggling to find my integrity. Yet I question what actually the righteous things are to do, say, and think. I guess to begin I need to explain that I'm typing this in a hospital room. Yesterday about 7:30 a.m. my wife and I were involved in a wreck. I came out with only a few cuts and bruises. Mari, my wife, suffered a crushed shoulder, broken collarbone, 3 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. They expect her to fully recover, but for now they have her heavily sedated. Having to type this out on a phone is a daunting task. But at the moment I have the time to push through, even if I'm not sure I have the will to do it. I wouldn't be posting in this sub if things were perfect with our marriage, obviously. I just could never imagine my wife being unfaithful in any way. My heart is broken. I feel incomplete, like part of me is missing. And saddest of all, that part is sitting a mere 3 feet away from me. I had felt us growing apart over the last 3 months, but I couldn't come up with a reason why. We are both 34. Mari and I have known each other since we were children. We began dating in high school and all the way through college. She is the only woman I have ever done anything of a physical nature with. Up until recently she could say the same. We married a year after college and had our first child, Michael, a year later. 3 years after my son was born, Carrie, our daughter, began a life of me trying to spoil her rotten. I love my kids more than life itself. If not for them, I'm not sure I would be here right now. They were not involved in the wreck, thank God. They were spending the night at my parents'. We were due to fly down to Florida for a cruise yesterday afternoon. Obviously, that is all cancelled. But my wife decided to go out with her best friend even though I urged her to get home and not drive around in the snow. She swore she and her best friend Rebecca were just going to have a few drinks since they wouldn't see each other for a week. I went to bed and slept like a baby until about 5 a.m. I got up and looked out the window to see my wife's car was not out front, but we'd gotten several more inches of snow. I assumed Mari and Becca got a little too drunk and crashed at her place. I threw some clothes on and got into my SUV. Before I left, I texted Mari to tell her not to drive, that the snow was too deep, and I was coming to get her. It remained on unread. I cannot guess how many times I have wondered what would have happened if she'd read that text. I'd still be living a lie. I'd still have a gut feeling. But I wouldn't be in the utter misery I now find myself. I got to Becca's and pulled up in front of her condo. I looked at the message again and it still had not been read. I had actually hoped Mari would read it and be ready when I arrived. But I resigned myself to the fact I'd have to go in and wake her. The front door was unlocked, so I walked in and looked to the TV room to my right. There was nobody passed out on the sofa. Rebecca's bedroom was downstairs, and I didn't want to wake her. So, I took the stairs up to her guest room and opened the door. Then my life ended. I remember walking into the room and seeing 2 heads peeking out from the covers. I remember leaning down to pull the comforter toward me. I even remember seeing my wife laying her head on some guy's shirtless chest. The next thing I remember was Becca, Mari, and some half-naked guy I'd never seen trying to pull me off of him. I'd probably be in jail right now if they hadn't. But I honestly don't remember a thing. So right or wrong, I don't really feel too bad about that. My wife, on the other hand, well, that changes from minute to minute these days. When I came to my senses, the dude said he'd get his buddy to the hospital. Mari bawled her eyes out while Rebecca and I screamed it out. I told her and my wife I was leaving, and she had 5 minutes to be in my car or to not bother coming home. She was there in 3. Really not a good idea to be angry driving in snow, even with 4-wheel drive. But it was another vehicle that veered into our lane and forced us through a guardrail. That's what caused Mary's injuries. The car rolled, thank God for airbags. But we lived. The kids don't even know we had a wreck. I haven't called anyone. I probably should have. But this wasn't just a wreck. My life has been wrecked and I'm trying to gauge the damage before I start bringing others into the situation. I'm numb and yet I hurt like hell, and not from the wreck. I feel like I don't even know the person laying in that hospital bed. I want to ask her so many questions. But I really don't want to know any of the answers. She obviously no longer loves me. No one with a soul could cheat on someone they love. So, I have to ask if she ever loved me. And now that she has cheated, would I ever want her to love me again if that were possible? I don't know the specifics of when she first cheated, but in my book, the instant she did, our marriage ended. The vows were broken, she ended our marriage, and we are no longer man and wife. I don't need a divorce attorney to nullify my marriage, she's already done that. Therefore, I am no longer under obligation to the vows I gave. A huge part of me wants to just walk out of this room. I want to call her parents, tell them what she did and what happened, and then let them know she is their problem again after all these years. We said for better or for worse, and I meant it. But we are no longer married. Part of me wants to leave her a note and tell her too bad worse happened to come after she ended our relationship. The only thing that is keeping me in this room is my children. I want to see them so badly right now. But I have some scratches on my face and neck. They'd know something happened if they saw me. As much as I feel my wife has defiled herself and our family, my kids need her. I thought I had a life partner. And as horrible as she ended up being, my children need a mom in their life. There are going to be talks I am not qualified to have and wouldn't know where to begin. There are going to be injuries that need kisses instead of being told to walk it off. I'm a good father, but I can't be a mother too. Please someone help me. How can I sit here and look over someone who has stabbed me in the back so cruelly? Should I call her parents to come? What do I tell them? I really don't want to be here, especially with her parents. If I don't tell them what she did, they are going to know I'm pissed off. What in God's name do I tell my children? Yeah, I can tell them we were in a wreck. But I'm not the kind that can fake emotion. Obviously, my wife does it with ease. But when I loathe someone, it shows in my face. They will know I am angry at their mother. How the hell did my life come to this? I already know I need to see a lawyer, I've figured that much out. But how do I handle this? It took so long to get approved that I didn't think my post had posted. I just started getting notifications, so I am sorry for not responding sooner to people that made comments trying to help.
Update.
After my initial post that day, I decided to stay one more night in that hospital room. With the Mari sedated and the lights out, I laid back in the recliner looking at the ceiling, listening to the medical machines. I laid there wondering how the hell my life had reached that point. Part of me felt like I was giving her undeserved mercy just being in the same room, yet part of me loved her. I didn't want to feel that love. I actually felt weak for having any positive feelings for her. Over and over in my mind I kept realizing there was no fixing things back to the way they were. It was as if some natural disaster had taken the life we built and destroyed it. I cried. I cried so hard. I realized a huge part of my life was over. That was a moment of huge significance in my life. When the nurse came into the room to take blood the next morning, I excused myself. When Mari woke, she saw me heading out the door and called to me, but I acted like I didn't hear her. I went and got some breakfast. I haven't had much an appetite since finding out. I tried to kill some time eating and scanning through my phone. There was a text from Becca asking where Mari was that I left unread. I decided at 7 a.m. it was late enough to knock on her parents' door. Her dad was always an early riser. I planned to talk to him first, and if he thought his wife needed to hear it, he could wake her. I saw smoke coming from the wood stove in his workshop out back, so I knocked on the door before entering. He saw the scratches on my neck and bruise on my cheek. I explained there had been an accident. Mari had gotten the worst of it, but we needed to talk. I think he assumed I meant about the accident, so he woke my mother-in-law to hear what I had to say. We sat in the kitchen as I explained how going around a curve a car in the oncoming lane veered into our lane. Having big vehicle and all-wheel drive, I managed to keep us on the road until we hit the guardrail. The passenger side door caught one of the vertical I-beams mounted in concrete. Even with side airbags, Mari hit hard. She sustained lots of injuries, but I told them she was stable, and they expected a full recovery. They both cried knowing their daughter had suffered but would still be around for them to love. As soon as they insinuated, they would be around to help me in any way they needed to assist me looking after Mari. That was when I stopped them and explained the wreck wasn't what I'd come to tell them. They looked confused as I explained waking up that morning and sending a text to head off in the snow to make sure my wife was okay. I told them about walking in on their daughter and some guy I'd never seen and unconsciously beating him over and over. They were both shocked. Then I told them what room she was in at the hospital, explained I always wanted them to be part of the kids' lives, so I hoped they could remain friendly with me. I told them my dad was looking after them at the moment. But I was divorcing their daughter as she had broken our vows and was no longer my wife. I was leaving their place and driving to my dad's to tell the kids about the wreck. I was also going to tell them we were splitting up and wouldn't be together anymore. I wasn't going to tell them their mother is a cheater. I told my former in-laws that while I hated things had to end the way they did, at least I could say I wasn't the one who destroyed our marriage in my life. They tried to tell me I shouldn't be so hasty, she made a mistake, and the usual lame excuses. I just smiled and told them I'd loved having them as in-laws over the years and walked out. When I got to my dad's, I of course had so much I needed to get off of my chest. I entered through the kitchen where I found my dad having a cup of coffee. The only thing he knew was that I was supposed to be on a big boat in the Caribbean. He stood and asked what I was doing there. I just grabbed him, hugged him and cried like a child. It was the kind of thing where he really wanted to know what was going on, that sensed he needed to let me cry it out before prying. He led me to the den and sat me on the couch to go get my mom. We both urged her to have a cup of coffee first, but she knew if I was there alone that early, I had something bad to tell them. I first explained about Mari cheating, me catching her and leaving Becca's. Then I explained about the wreck, that it was pretty bad. I told them about Mary's injuries and explained I'd let her parents know only an hour before so they could go see her. Both of my parents were stunned. My mom finally asked me now what I'm going to do. They both cried when I told them my only remaining option was to divorce Mari and be the best father I could for my children. As our conversation was winding down, I heard my daughter Carrie squeal "Daddy," and come running down the stairs toward me. That woke up my son, who was also downstairs with a few minutes. I hadn't seen them in so long, I just spent time hugging them, happy to see them. They took a while to notice my scratches. I told them about the wreck and that their mommy was in the hospital but going to be fine. I told them Mary's parents would eventually pick them up to take them to see their mom and left it at that. I spent a day playing, talking to, holding, napping with, and laughing with my children, and those two made me want to live again. Until that point, if I'm honest, I was like 50-50 about wanting to go on. But they are worth living for, protecting, and cherishing. My wife's phone was destroyed in the wreck, so nobody had gotten a response for days. Early that night I started getting texts from my Mills phone and knew they had to be from Mari. I ignored them. They continued sporadically off and on through the night, turned off notifications. The next day I spoke with 3 law offices about filing for divorce. I can't say I want or even need a legal divorce, but that will divide assets and determine custody of our children. What she does with who is no longer of any concern of mine. I've met with 2 and I like the later one quite a bit. I'll meet with the 3rd-rated lawyer to see if he wows me. If not, I'm going with the second firm's top divorce attorney. Either way, I will have removed 3 top legal sources from her list of candidates. And that's a win, in my book. Custody is my primary focus. I'm not going for full custody, and I wouldn't want it if I could get it. They need their mother in their lives. But because she did what she did, she can never again be a part of my life. A go-between can drop the kids off on time whenever they need to be where they need to be. Not a reason in this world for me to ever say another word to her. I obviously never knew her, so why would I continue to interact with a stranger? I go back to work next week from what would have been our cruise. I didn't tell a soul at work we didn't go or anything about the wreck. And of course, they will be seeing me driving the rental car and question if I got a new car. I'm not sure if I need to explain things to our, but I don't want my personal business to be aired out for all to see. I feel humiliated as it is without news leaking out. Divorce is a necessity sometimes, but it always represents a failure. But I'm done being an anchor for a ship that has already sunk. And for those who insisted rightly to get checked for STDs, have had a full screening, it came back clean on everything, thank God. Even that was enough to make me feel like some trenchcoat pervert when I did nothing wrong. I assume by this time Mari has left the hospital. Her parents did not even attempt to bring her to the house. They couldn't have contacted me anyway due to Mary's constant texts I wasn't reading. As soon as I can get divorce papers filed and her served, I can be done with the biggest mistake of my life. Her actions invalidated all of that time. If I had to do it over again, I would now not do it again. I would choose a life with someone else, anyone else who would actually be faithful and loyal. Her greatest asset is what she intentionally threw away: the ability to be trusted. From having someone to call your own to being all alone. That's what I'll miss. But I know all of that was a lie and I meant nothing to her. People will swoon over a beautiful lie and repel an ugly truth. I'm not one of those people. A lot of people wanted the dirty details of who my wife strayed with, why and how long it had been going on. I'm sorry, I don't have that information to share. But I really don't want to know. Outside of a person literally putting a gun to your head, there is no excuse to cheat. Beyond that, when you have made a life bond you have sworn to uphold and make the decision for the other person to ruin it, you are vile. I wish to God I'd never met her and had taken a chance on someone, anyone else. She had no right to give me a life and then take it all from me against my will. The man I was before her betrayal will never exist again. The woman she was never existed in the life I had as a facade in ruins nobody wants to live in.
My opinion. Cheating and the car accident are two different things. I'm glad that she's in hospital in good hands. And I'm glad you told her parents about the accident and the hospital. They will take care of her. Else is not your business given the second thing, the cheating. Well, she betrayed you. Now everything is done with her as your wife. You need to handle her the divorce papers and explain your children in an appropriate way about what happened and why you are no longer together with their mother. She found herself another boyfriend, that is why. Then start recovering from the damage she gave to you. Mental, I mean, not the one connected with the car accident. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe on my channel.